right, I have 6 o'clock. And welcome to the Town of Proctor Selectboard meeting for March 25th. If everyone would please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first order of business is to review and approve the agenda, and I would like to add executive session at the end for legal.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Review and approve the minutes from March 11th. Are there any additions, corrections, deletions? Hearing none, a motion would be in order.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Albert.
Second.
Second by Bruce. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Open public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak?
I'll wait till the highway. If I got this sheet, should be doing so. Just a question that I may ask, if you don't mind.
Okay, you can ask him now. We don't really have a highway department.
Report, no.
No.
So by looking at this sheet for a month, this does not impress me at all. There's a lot of repetition in this sheet, number one. And if we're paying these guys to do this kind of work, you sure wouldn't be on my payroll. This is really disgusting.
Warrants, I don't know what that means, so you'd have to be more specific than
Well, it
that.
doesn't tell you how long it takes to do anything. All right, there's a lot of repetition, picking up branches, picking up branches, cleaning storm drains. I noticed they haven't been doing that because I see storm drains leaks. I mean, a lot of
Would
repetition.
that constitute the repetition then?
Yeah, if you go day by day, it's a lot of repetition. And what time do they really start? Do they punch the clock or do they write their time in?
They do time sheets,
Punch.
and we have them into,
Did you find that? Yeah.
so they're accounted for.
But I'm just saying, you know, there's a lot of things I'm looking at. I've been doing this over 50 years, and I got employees. And I'll tell you something, I can't believe what I'm seeing.
So John, do you think that,
International for a drive to clear the filter. Well, International has an air filter, not a filter, air filter, if they change it. You don't have to take that for a drive to clean the air filter when you put a new one in. I mean, I can go through it. I mean, the tree on South Street by the sign, and I mentioned this to her, they didn't pick it up. They picked it up, yeah, they threw it in the woods.
Yeah.
Well, can't you pick it up, burn it? You have a wood furnace.
There's all kinds of stuff down in the woods back there. I mean, what difference does it make? If I had cleaned it up, if it was for, when I was down there planting stuff, I would have picked it up just like I do with anything that's around there and thrown it back in the forest area. I mean, that one tree is gonna make a significant difference with all the trees that are down.
It looks like, I noticed it because I say, it seems like they're lazy. Why can't you put it in the truck? It wasn't that big. I mean, come on. Would you live like that on your lawn and just throw it out on the road? Or would you pick it up and take care of it?
I'd take it and throw it behind my house in the woods.
You notice the sign is right there, you can't miss it.
I know, I drive by it every day. I don't think it looks inappropriate there. So is there anything else about the report?
Well, I see they do maintenance on the loader, and then 2 days later, they're putting antifreeze in the thing. Well, they should have doing maintenance, and if they're putting antifreeze 2 days later. That loader, I took pictures. I'm ashamed That loader is a $300,000 loader.
How old is the loader?
I got equipment old too, but it's not like this.
How old is the loader, Kyle?
It's early 2000s.
Okay.
How many hours on it?
Hours and years don't always commingle. You know that even just with lawnmowers. So,
But I'm just saying, you gotta look at some of this equipment. It's really in bad, rusted shape. They should be sanding it, painting it, cleaning it. That's regular maintenance. And I'm ashamed as a taxpayer.
okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? John?
Just a question.
Sure.
On the time issue, does the town have a clock?
A time clock?
Yeah, a punch clock, a time clock?
Yes.
The garage does.
Is there some reason it's not used? Is it working?
They do use it.
Well, last week,
Oh, it is used.
you said they weren't.
So the clock.
I thought they were handing in timesheets because they do hand in time
So
to
the
Celia.
clock is used, it presents a punch-out card on a daily basis?
Yeah, well, a weekly basis, right? Don't you give it to her just on paydays? It runs,
We punch in and
it's
out
like every day you punch in, but it comes in every 2 weeks.
Every pay cycle, we fill out a sheet
Yeah.
that says what our hours are according to the card, punch card.
And then you also write on, like, if you're taking vacation time, if you've taken sick time, that's why there's a sheet that,
In overtime.
yeah, that's why there's a sheet that accompanies the time card.
Lisa, one more thing. If you have a time card and you do the time, you should write down how long it takes you to do a job. That's where you get your costs. That's when you find out where your money is being spent wisely. And any businessman will tell you that. They keep track of good records on anything they do. I bet you could go to over West Stone and ask Mary Gillette how long it takes them to do it. She could tell you, right down to the figure. She's very good at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Everyone had a chance to look and sign the bills?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, the first discussion item is the lawn tractor for Public Works, and so we asked Kyle to come. There were just some questions about the age of the current tractor.
I think it's almost 30 years old, 27. 28 years old.
Okay.
How many hours?
I don't think that even has hours on it.
Is it?
If it does, then I don't know, but it has for hours on it.
And then the other question was going to be like, so when we mow, what areas is this tractor used for versus what the zero turn is used for?
So the zero turn is good for flatter areas, doing the park, certain areas at the Proctor pool, you can do the rink. Anytime you gotta go on you get a side hill or any kind of incline, it's not very good for that. It's built like a skid steer. Yeah, just got swivel wheels on the front, so it tends to, especially if it's not completely dry, it wants to slide everywhere.
Okay.
You didn't say last week how much the bids were for a new one.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, 12,000.
No, there's 16, almost 16,000, 15,000 plus.
15.
Yeah.
They were
For
the, they were the
bids.
same.
With the deck.
But you brought up a good point, Lisa. How many days a year do you use that tractor, if I'm not too further? 15, 20, 50?
So however many weeks you get in the summer, once a week, at least once a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe 3 solid weeks in a year, if you put them all together. Maybe 4, maybe 5.
How many weeks in the summer, that depends on when you start.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I think what you suggested about outsourcing that particular might make a lot of sense.
Well, we're gonna discuss this
Yes.
and see what Kyle, the other question was, there was some, I think Judy mentioned that the tractor doesn't have a great deal of value, little trade-in value.
Not in the condition that it's in.
Okay,
Yeah.
You know, it needs a starter, needs new tires, the bearings in the deck are starting to go.
okay.
The blades in the deck.
So to get rid of the tractor, we're gonna do what? Just scrap it, use it till it falls apart?
We've been using an auction site
Okay,
and put it on there for auction.
Okay.
Available to anybody to bid on.
Okay, Lisa, one last question.
sure.
Would it be worth having it rebuilt?
I don't think so. It's almost
Okay.
30 years old.
I know, but
I don't think it'd be worth having it.
I'm older than 30 and I'm pretty well rebuilt.
You're not a lawn tractor. So, yeah, I think you could dump a bunch of money into it, but it's gonna end up like, you know.
Yeah, it's still gonna be.
It'll be like that 1995 dump truck we had. We put like 10 grand into it just to get it inspected, and then it went to auction, and we got something like 5 grand for it. So, I mean, you could replace all that stuff, and then something happens with the motor a week later.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So, we did have a conversation last week when this came out, or not last week, 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, about the possibility of outsourcing, because there was conversation that perhaps that you were going to stay at the current workforce and not add the person that, or fill the vacancy. Is that still the feeling?
I think that we could make that work instead of
Okay.
hiring another person.
And how do you think that would impact any summer projects? So because just in the past, it appears that, let's say I'm gonna pick a day, Thursday was the day that, a couple people mowed, right? So if you're down to a 4-man crew, right? And 2 people are mowing, do you still feel confident that the 2 other people can be working on projects or be effective doing projects?
Depends on the project, but in that case, if we knew we had a project coming up, we'd either mow a day early, wait a day later.
Sure.
You know, it's, if you wait a day, you know, it's not gonna be as, the grass is
Right.
gonna be out of control. Sometimes we'll skip a week because it's really dry, it's not growing,
Right,
you know, we're not strictly Thursday we mow and that's it.
no, I know, but it seems like there's kind of there was a rhythm to it.
Yeah, that's what it was, really, it was Thursdays. we
Yeah.
mow, But if there's projects or something like that, we can easily work around it. And
And-
we used to have, I mean, we have a water and wastewater operator, so they
Yeah.
have what they have to do for water and wastewater on a daily basis is some testing down at the well and the wastewater facility, which doesn't take that long.
Right,
So they're always available for highway stuff, and we used to do it with a 3-man crew.
right.
So really, I mean, we got 4 guys, I'm fairly confident we can make it.
Okay. And then what's your feeling about outsourcing? What's your comfort level on that? We haven't done it for a while, but there for a while, we used to do it pretty much regularly every summer, and then, we contracted out with the local, grass company. And then one year, I think we contracted out with I don't know, this probably isn't the right word. I'm gonna say
Prison
yeah, the jail. I was trying to think of an appropriate phrase.
is what it is.
Yeah, the prisoners.
Yeah.
Yeah, so any thought on that, or you'd want to try it this summer and see how it works?
I mean, that's what our job is, we're a maintenance crew. We
Right.
take care of the town, part of that would be mowing.
Right.
In my opinion.
Right,
And we've been doing it for years, and it works. And, so as far as, you have some experience involved, knowing where to mow, and say you had rain in the morning, or you had rain the night before, we know in certain areas to avoid certain things, or wait till it's dry in this spot, skip that area, go to this one, you know.
Sure.
You just have that experience with knowing when and where and how to mow.
Okay,
where, I mean, again, someone who mows lawns for a living might do that, but they might be on a schedule, you know?
Sure.
They're gonna come and mow today. where we
I guess
kinda-
the question was like, and I don't know if you and Judy have met yet, but at some point there was conversation, you guys were gonna sit down and put together a schedule like for spring and summer projects, so, and I'm not really sure like what those projects look like. I mean, we haven't seen those, so just, thinking about how in-depth they were, we don't wanna be sitting here in, September and didn't get projects done, or, be concerned about not finishing a project because something was happening in town and we needed to mow or something like that, so.
Any kind of upcoming projects or schedule, projects we want to schedule out, it's never been a hindrance to
Okay,
doing other tasks like mowing and your normal kind of maintenance things.
okay.
And Kyle and I have met and talked about the schedule, and we've also talked about the outsourcing. Because
Okay.
basically, I think it's our decision to make, so.
Kyle, I got a question. Last year, when you say the previous years, was it always 3 members? Was there
So
4
it
or
was
5
just-
members?
For almost 2 years, it was 5 guys. Before that was, we had 4 guys for a while. Then, when I first started, it was just me, by myself.
Right,
And
right.
then we got another guy, and then it was 3 guys. We stayed 3 guys for a long time,
Right.
until we took over sewer and water.
Okay.
We had 2 guys, for the company was SOS, they were doing the water and wastewater. So we hired 2 more guys to kind of replace them. But we're all considered public works.
Right.
And they aren't strictly water and wastewater. They also help with highway, we help with the water and wastewater.
Right, but not having that 5th guy, you think you're okay? It's,
Yeah, I don't think it'll throw a wrench into it, anything. I don't think it'll slow us down at all.
okay. I'm just looking at manpower, Judy, even cost, as to what that manpower would be, where it would go.
Well, I mean, you're saving by not having another employee,
Right, that's,
the benefit piece and everything else. By having just the 4, add another one, you're adding another salary and benefit packet.
right.
And I mean, I think the other night with the snowstorm speaks well of our guys, They
Yeah.
had 3 of them, and they kept those roads cleaned all night long.
Yeah, they did
So,
a good job, very good.
Yeah, and I think that's much bigger than a summer job sometime, Mowing is nothing. You're
Right.
talking one day out of the week that you could use 1, maybe 2 guys. So,
You're right, and the only reason I ask is, from my previous experiences, to turn down a person was something you never did. So if you wanted that extra person, you always grab them, but if Kyle's confident that, they can handle
and I mean, I
business.
think he'll know me even more so going into the spring and seeing, once we get the paving bids and stuff like that, and seeing where the projects land, he'll have a better idea if all of a sudden it's like, oh, maybe we need to outsource the pool, or something like that, so.
Yeah, so I guess my request would be then, I have no issue with going forward and trying it this summer. I would just be curious what those overtime hours look like, and then to have that information come back to us, let's say, the first meeting in October, because by then we should be through pretty much all the mowing, right? And so then we know kind of like what that looks like, what kind of overtime it might incorporate project-wise, or, I mean, if there's a water main break or something like that, that's certainly not what I'm talking about. That's an exception to the rule, but just if, because we're just down to 4 guys, we get into an overtime, just so we have an idea what that would look like. I would just be curious to see those hours.
Like I was saying, we used to do it with 3 guys, and I can almost guarantee you there would be no extra overtime on normal maintenance
Okay,
kind of stuff, like mowing.
yeah,
I think there's much more overtime in winter when there's
Oh, yeah.
plowing
Yeah.
and storms and
yeah,
stuff.
but that's the exception to the rule, I mean.
Yeah, and like you said,
Yeah.
unless there's a water main break or
Yeah.
something like that, you don't see much overtime in the
Yeah.
summer.
All right, so
But in the wintertime now, having the sidewalks done on a timely fashion is pretty much needed on school days. Will you still be able to handle that with not having that fifth person?
We only have.
Because we don't do busing and they have to use the sidewalks. We don't want them walking on the street on Route 3.
Right. We only have one machine for sidewalks.
Okay, so,
Having 4 or 5 guys wouldn't.
No, that
would
wouldn't
make a
help it.
difference. But what happened today was we went out yesterday and we had to, we were gonna plan on getting it all done yesterday, but we had an issue with the snow blower, the chute. The chute
Yeah.
didn't want to
Yeah.
turn. So we had to get that fixed before we continued on.
Trust me, it happens. We had an issue with the snow blower. I thought we were gonna have words at our house. But then it all worked out. So,
Yeah.
yes,
So-
John.
You just said we only have one sidewalk machine?
Yeah.
Yes,
Look at the other one, and we need a big corner to put the new engine in. The little small Bobcat that does the sidewalks before we bought this one.
we sold that at auction. And I thought we got an excellent price for it.
We did get a very good price for it. It was very tippy.
I know, but it was small, and when we voted to keep it as a backup, that's what we did, because we put a new engine in it. I
Yeah,
remember that. I mean, it was a very small Bobcat.
I didn't feel comfortable putting guys in it anymore because they flopped off the sidewalk a couple of times, right in the middle of school traffic. When you got curbs in town that are that tall, you're trying to clean the sidewalk, it's covered in snow. It's hard to tell where that curb is
I'm
sometimes.
just saying, when Sanderson was here, he wanted it because it did the bridge, because it was very small, and it did up by the grammar school because of the cement wall. And he said, we gotta have that because the other one was too big.
No, we
And that's
did
when we put the new engine in it.
We did it today with the tool cat. It's not, you're not driving down the sidewalk like you normally would everywhere else. You gotta come at it from a different direction, and you can still get it done. And we're not dealing with that. To me, it wasn't a safe machine for what we were doing with it.
All right, any other questions for Kyle? Any other additional questions about the purchase of the mower? And the price is $15,376.74. And as mentioned at the last meeting, it doesn't make any difference what John Deere dealership you go to, that's the price.
It's that price.
Yeah, I got 3 quotes from 3 different dealerships, and one in New York.
Right.
And it was Richard John Deere, second price, and that's what you get, the
Right.
exact same price everywhere you want.
And is it something that, I mean, you could purchase easily? It's something they have. You don't have to order.
Yeah, the one right in Rutland, they have it right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you, Kyle. Lisa Wright.
Hi, everybody. Well, I'm here to talk about the reappraisal contract. You awarded the bid to Tyler, excuse me, my voice neck, to Tyler Technologies a few months back, and now we have a contract which went through a couple of drafts, and I think I have it pretty much complete. It includes a fee schedule. We had a little bit of negotiation around the deposit. They had put 15%, and I said, 10% is more typical in my experience. We negotiated that down to 10%. And we had neglected to have it our RFP, a holdback for when the work is completed, which is typically 10%. Every contract I've ever seen has an amount similar to that is paid to the contractor when the job is completely done. And they, were completely agreeable to that. So you should have, Judy, you got them copies of everything, right? So there were 2 documents. One is the contract, which if you really want to read it and read a lot of it, you gotta have this proposal with you, because a lot of it refers right to this. So there really are no surprises in the contract. It's pretty much specified in this very detailed proposal they gave us in response to the request for bid. But the additional document is just a fee schedule, which isn't set in stone if they aren't, it's other than the 10% deposit and the 10% when the job is complete. The rest of it will be billed as progress happens. And won't be billed until that progress is moving along. I mean, that said, you expect to have a pretty tight time frame to get everything done in time with multiple towns, and we have a kind of tight time frame here in Proctor where we have 4 installments on our tax bills, so I'm every year under the gun to make sure I get that to Celia, get the grand list finalized so that she can send out tax bills in early July, because your first one is done as due early August, as I understand it. So, the only thing I would question is, as any separate arrangement with the Tyler contract, is the situation with the utilities, where we have a 10-year settlement agreement on the hydro plant that is in place, and our settlement agreement stays regardless of a reappraisal. So, so that is enforced for the hydro plant, which is that's a big deal, and that's a great settlement that we managed to come to with that property. But in consistency, I would just present to you that you consider hiring Sanssouci to do the other large transmission and distribution parcels, which are Green Mountain for their current assessed value based on a 2020 reappraisal that Sanssouci did, which we are holding to this day without adjustment to the CLA, which is at 79% at this point, is $4.3 million for GMP's transmission and distribution, and excuse me, 2.057 million for Vermont Transco. So just in the interest of consistency, you might consider that. I have a quote from them that they need to refine a little bit for me, but they're talking $3,000 for the reappraisal year to do those 2 parcels alone. So I would say that you don't have to make that decision one way or the other tonight, and it might behoove the town to wait a little while on that. I mean, we have Tyler under contract to do it. But I'll be very honest with you, most appraisal contractors, and Tyler is no exception, they're simply going to use the state's inventory value, which the numbers that we have from Sanssouci's appraisal are significantly higher than those values, so that's something to consider. It may, at the end of the day, be more important to do that for a really major installation like the substation we have in West Rutland or the hydro plant in Proctor, but it just, in the interest of equity, you tend to, it's been best practice over the years to do the same kind of system for the utilities. So when we set about doing a reappraisal of the hydro plant, we did the other utility properties as well to be consistent and equitable in that category of properties. So there is some efforts pending at the state, which have been taking a little longer than they anticipated, where they are revamping that inventory system, and hopefully that will deliver some numbers that are a little closer to fair market value statewide for utilities, but where that was supposed to be ready this year, maybe not till next year, maybe not till the following year. That might warrant some wait and see.
So if we took it away from Tyler, how does that impact the dollar value on that contract?
I would have to negotiate that, but I don't think they're gonna negotiate much more for it, because frankly, they were, again, because it's been standard practice, I wouldn't advocate that it's best practice, but it's been standard practice. A reappraisal contractor comes in, they're qualified to appraise residential and most commercial properties, but some properties, like utility properties, are so unique and so complex that you really have to go to a specialist like George Sansucci's company.
But
to
if
do those.
they're not going to do it, then there's no takeaway from the current contract. If the contract technically says that the scope of the contract
Right,
is there to complete that,
right. We would have to negotiate that with them.
do
My
we know
preliminary-
in looking at the contract, what the charge would be for the utilities?
Right, so my preliminary conversations with them, we're talking about the average parcel price, which is, I had that right in front of me a minute ago, 116 a parcel. Now, when you go to bid a reappraisal job, you usually look at, okay, this subset of parcels are gonna take me X number of hours a parcel, these are gonna take me X number of parcels. But honestly, if you're just gonna use the state's inventory, those are actually gonna take you a lot less time than a typical residential property.
How far off are those?
What's that?
How far off are those figures from the state versus what Sansucci's?
I don't have those in front of me on the transmission and distribution. It was I wanna say it was around 400,000 for the Velco property, so 400,000 out of 2 million. So that's still somewhat significant. It was the hydro plant that we
Right.
Yeah.
realized they're still putting on their inventory 9 million some odd.
So could we still end up in the same situation we did last time with Green Mountain Power? And cost us thousands of dollars more?
I mean, that's a risk with any reappraisal, you know?
Oh, I know, but I'm
Well,
just
the
saying
problem with the risk though right now is we don't have those funds because
Yeah.
we already
Yeah.
expended those funds with Sansucci before. And
Right,
in my opinion, the expenditure was excessive. I know that there are others that don't believe that, but, I don't know, I think that's something this board's gonna have to think about and talk about, and then see what negotiating down that other contract, because if you're not, if you're not doing the work, and if you're, then I'm not sure why you get compensated for it. I guess that's problematic for me, number one. So that would be a conversation. And do we have a definitive start time, and do we know the other towns they're doing while they're in our area, or they're,
Tyler is already working on Castleton.
okay,
You can go to their website, they've got timeline posted of they've begun work in Castleton.
okay. And then we think it's another year out before they're here.
It absolutely is, right in the timeline of their proposal, yeah. The concept was that we would start with the conversion first, because that's a process in
Right.
and of itself. And to get some of the kinks out of that and get the data moved to the new program, to hand that to them, so they weren't dealing with conversion difficulties, and I wasn't dealing with conversion difficulties in my office in the same year that I was dealing with a reappraisal. So that's the concept there, and I think it's good advice. You
No,
know,
that makes sense to have
John
them.
Hickory and I talked about it a lot, and I was like, oh, yeah, I've been through that. We did it in West Rutland, where we did a conversion and a reappraisal in the same year, and
And how's it working in Castleton then? Or they did the
Castleton
conversion?
has the same program already.
Okay,
But there's an upgrade to the Assess Pro program that they're putting off until after they do the reappraisal, which was an interesting decision. Usually an update isn't that big a deal, but they decided to do the reappraisal first, then do the update.
no. Albert?
Because we're talking about that camera conversion, you know, it's a separate, and it's gonna be paid by the town for the conversion and the software license. But it
Correct.
also says, you know, in this guide here, that Tyler will support the town with the database. You know, is that included in their price that they gave us in this?
It is,
Booklet,
it
or-
is.
it
It's
is.
always part of the process. Whatever software package you're using, they have to develop the building schedules, the land schedules,
Okay.
depreciation, and all of that. So they have to be able to work with us on that. And then, of course, updates, they're gonna be doing that, you know, if they go to a house and the sketch is all wrong, or there've been additions that were picked up, I hope not many.
Yeah.
Not, you always have a few.
On the residential properties, what will that entail for each residence? Will that entail an interior inspection as well as exterior?
I believe so.
The reason I'm asking the question is, I'm sure there are other people, maybe even in this room, but the last time that the inspection was done, there were many, many homes that just said, you're not coming into this property. And I can tell you that a couple of people that spoke to me, as well as we ourselves, were hurt by that situation when those appraisals came up. So I'm just wondering if everybody's gonna be treated the same, if there's gonna be a requirement for an interior inspection or not, that's all.
Well, I think you have the right to refuse.
By law, you cannot require taxpayers to allow an assessor or an appraisal team in your property at any time. The only place it's required upon you is if you appeal beyond the lister's grievance level and go to the Board of Civil Authority. If you do not let the inspection committee from the BCA come in, your appeal is withdrawn. It cannot go further.
Albert?
Speaking to that issue, if, you know, in this guide, page 22, data collection phase, it says Tyler will inspect the interior of each structure, and, you know, for the exterior and the interior, you know, they'll collect data through mailings. You know, that's on that page, but when you go to another page, page 15, I believe it is, about the town's, you know, scope of services, it says that they will do an interior inspection, and Tyler there says that they will do an internal inspection. So one place they're saying they're gonna do it by mailing, the other place they're saying they're gonna do it by their staff doing the internal.
They will make an attempt to do an interior inspection. I can tell you the climate has changed. I've done a number of townwide
Okay.
reappraisals myself, and I even have kind of a controlled study. I did the town of Wells in 2005. We got into something like 85% or something like that. Did a reappraisal in the same town, same appraisal contractors, similar board of listers, in 2015, and we got into like 45%. And maybe a little bit of that was like, well, you were here 10 years ago, you know the property. But I think it was more, I'm hearing this everywhere I go, and when I did Wallingford in 2018, we try as we might, we didn't get into more than 50%, 40 some odd percent is what I recall.
Yeah.
Because A, people don't have to let you in, and they know that now, maybe they didn't know that 20 years ago. People just aren't home as much, people are concerned about security. So you do the best you can with a reappraisal. Obviously, it's ideal if you can get a look at the inside of the property, and you've got to at least do a exterior inspection from the street or the driveway. But the data mailers kind of pick up that difference of, you know, trying to get information in any way you can. Certainly, we're not going to change somebody's property from a 4-bedroom to a 2-bedroom because of a data mailer or something like that, you know, without an inspection to make a significant change like that would impact value. But it's a place to start, and it sometimes can open the conversation. If the person says, well, I'm just realizing my card says I do have 4 bedrooms. I've never had 4 bedrooms. Then it's an opportunity to maybe get that person to talk to us a little bit and give us better information, so we try to get it right.
Sean?
The reason I asked the question is because just what you talked about with a good percentage of house inspections taking place in a town and then at a later time a lot less taking place at a couple of years later. Part of the problem is people talk to each other, and I can tell you that people in some of those other towns, in talking with them and like that, it became very obvious that you fared better if you didn't let the inspectors come into your house. And I think that'd be too bad if the situation helps here. If there's any kind of an education process that between the appraisers and the board can put together so that the population has some idea of what's going on, I think you'll get more cooperation rather than less. But if it just comes about, as it did the last time, I can tell you, I've heard a number of people saying, I can tell you this time, they're not coming into my house. And so that would be too bad, because I think it presents a very skewed evaluation, and there are a number of people that get harmed by it. And you can compare your property to somebody else's when you come in for a tax appraisal. But depending where things are and who lets them in and who doesn't let them in, it's a big issue. And the contract should, with the town, you people should have a reflection of what the true situation is when you sign a contract, because if somebody walks in and looks at the contract, and I'm just thinking of what you mentioned, Mr. Winter, if somebody comes in and looks at that contract, they're saying, why can all these people say you can't come in? I don't disagree that there's a legal issue. But I think if you try to cope with it, you may fare better in an overall assessment that's fair to everybody.
I think probably part of the issue is when they come at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and people are at work or at school, and that seemed to be problematic with the last company that we had. They were not very reflective of the community, and even once you received and responded to them, they didn't seem to care if you were there or not. So I think that was part of the issue.
Can they come on weekends?
I don't know. Lisa?
I think they've offered,
Well, just,
somewhere in here to do occasional weekends, but having done that myself, how many weekends would you want to give up from your 9 to 5 job to do that? And I remember offering that in Wallingford, and honestly, I had some Saturdays, I had 2 appointments. And I was like, so what am I gonna do?
just an excuse.
Do cold calls on a Saturday, which can sometimes work, although sometimes people are more annoyed if you do a cold call on a Saturday that you've interrupted their Saturday. You know, it's a tough business to be in.
I wouldn't suggest any cold call, period. That's no way to do business, if that's the way you're gonna do it. People should know that if they wanna look at my house, they damn well should let me know, and I will greet them. But if they're gonna come at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when, I don't know what, that's not right. I don't care how much they're getting paid, they ought to find another line of work.
Yeah,
There's quite-
yeah, Albert, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's quite an extensive public relations program, and they say that they are going to be active, notifying the public, what their intents are and how they're going to go about it. And
The way we're proposing to do is say we're gonna be on X streets on this week, but there's no way for this cost that you're gonna make individual appointments with every taxpayer in town.
Well, no wonder they
Just-
couldn't get into the houses.
You can't do that for 800 parcels. You'd be paying $500 a parcel to get somebody to do that. You're gonna commission a full sales comparison grid appraisal for a townwide reappraisal? You can't afford that. You just can't. No town in Vermont can.
So what's
I
their
mean,
communication piece? I mean, how do they communicate to people that they are coming, just as a general knowledge to people?
I believe they've talked about sending out postcards. That's how I would advocate doing it. It's just what we usually do.
Because it would
These
seem
days
almost
it-
advantageous if there's something they could do to notify people and get feedback saying, we'll let you look at the exterior, but we won't let you look at the interior. And if 25% say, we're letting you in and then 75% aren't, then why even do an assessment that way? Because
Exactly.
then
Why
it's
not just do
totally,
an exterior?
exactly, it's totally skewed then.
Well, if you ask people, I'm telling you, you probably will get up to 40%, and that's about it, that are gonna let you in. So you are gonna have to do 60% of them by an exterior inspection and do the best you can with that information you have. I'm just telling you the nature of this work. It's not the same as when you go to the bank for a refinance loan and it's an individual situation where one individual is coming to one house to do an appraisal. It's not the same thing. A certain level of it has to be done by statistics, but we've always given people the option, and I'm sure we will with this situation, give them the option of you can come to my house, but we need to make an appointment, and there'll be an opportunity to do that.
Jay?
Hi, yeah, well, I was wondering on an existing residence, like John was saying, if there was no upgrades, changes of any kind to the residence, maybe that's why people are hesitant to let them in. There's no reason they don't think to let them in the house. Nothing's changed. In order to find out if anything's changed, it would be maybe through the town, the permit process, if something was added, for instance, a deck, a bigger porch, or something like that, obviously it'll change the cost, the money's involved with that residence. And the inside of the house, unless it was completely gutted and changed, may make a difference, but there's documentation of all that. I don't know if that's an easier way to narrow it down or to target, certain residences that.
Sure. Well, there's two parts to the job, Jay. One part of the job is your data collection of determining which properties have changed in terms of the inventory of that property. But the other part of the job is also updating values to current market value. So one of your biggest problems with the reappraisals in every town in Vermont is property values appreciated so tremendously from 2016, when this data was collected and compiled for an effective date of 4/1/2017. We've had major changes since then in that market. And those market changes haven't impacted every class of property, every neighborhood of property the same way. For instance, properties in a floodplain or that might have other limitations
Oh, and I can
on
understand.
use may not have seen that kind of appreciation that other classes of property that maybe have all those ducks in a row. Does that make sense? I mean,
It does.
I usually try to present in any PR case for a reappraisal, I give the classic example of, the practical old Vermonter who's perhaps put on vinyl siding on the outside and a standing seam roof because they don't want any maintenance on the outside. Inside the house, kind of like my house as a matter of fact, you might find a 50-year-old kitchen. So you can believe I let the appraisal team in West Rutland come in my house because I wanted them to see beyond the new vinyl siding and say, look, this is a 50-year-old kitchen. I want you to appreciate that. So I think there are people that, kind of shoot themselves in the foot. By contrast, if the outside of your house looks very worn and very dated, what are the chances the inside of it is updated to the nines? And what are the chances that has a major impact on value if that is the case? If the realtor can't get somebody out of the car to look at it,
No, that's good, Lisa. I appreciate you clarifying.
Does that help?
That it does, and it does, and I understand. And, the reluctance for people to just let somebody in the house again it's always gonna be there. If there's an easier way, even what you would just explain to help communicate that it's to their benefit to do that, to walk in, please come in, take a look around. I don't know how long the process is. If it's a 30-minute process, maybe people would be more apt to do it, with the understanding as to what the outcome may be. So I don't know the best way to communicate that. In a team, I'm sorry, and the second part was a team. Is there a team that does this of people is there so many, is there
Yes.
like groups of people or teams of people that are?
well, they're going to have data collectors that are coming in. John Vickery is going to be involved in overseeing the project. I believe he came via Zoom, or did he come in person to this town?
Zoom.
I'm forgetting. He'll be happy to come in and introduce himself. I'm not sure, they haven't revealed to me their data collectors who they are going to be. Honestly, I think they're ramping up teams in Rutland County to do some of this work. But they have committed to giving us a list of those people, making sure they are background checked and and making folks in town aware of who's going to be out doing that.
And I think once we get a list of those, maybe it might also be advantageous if we could just have their name and a headshot to put on Facebook, on the town Proctor page, to put on the
They say that they'll
website.
have an ID badge.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
we have lots, I'll just say in my neighborhood, lots of people that live
sure.
alone, older people, and I think that in today's world, even when somebody shows up with a badge, it's not always a guarantee. And I mean, I don't see what the downside with that, if they're gonna be in town.
We could ask them to put it on the website.
Yeah, I just think that if we could say, if you see these people out in this car, in your neighborhood, this is what they're doing. Cause I can guarantee you, the first time they're in a neighborhood, someone's gonna say, did you see that blue Corolla with New York plates on it? I don't know if it's been on your street, but it's been on my street and it's just driving really slow.
Sure.
I mean, that's,
Yeah, you're right.
It's a different world today than it was
Yeah.
Right, right.
20 years ago.
And
The more time that goes by, the more people that are really concerned with who's knocking at the front door.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I just think that that's just one more piece to make people comfortable if they choose to let them into your house. Albert, did you have something else?
Well, I was just gonna ask, of the sales, when they do the appraisal, that's gonna be by cost approach or sales approach. Not being able to go into a home and do the inspection and apply the same standards uniformly across the board. Will they use a home for the sales approach that they haven't inspected? Because in Proctor, we have many streets where there's dilapidated houses, houses that have been gutted, and updated. And I'm just afraid they're gonna go into this reconditioned home on this end of the street and another home that was remodeled on the other end of the street, and assume that every home is gonna be appraised based on the condition of the first and last home.
Well, I've never seen that happen, where there's a depreciation schedule that should be developed for every reappraisal. And depreciation, you have to realize, changes with the market. One definition of depreciation is the difference between replacement cost new and market value. So in the market that we've seen, so think about it, when there's a buyer's market, if you got 20 houses to choose from, then you can get sales concessions for the outdated kitchen, sales concessions for this, that, and the other. So there's more depreciation in a buyer's market. In a seller's market, you got 2 houses that fit your needs, and there's a bidding war for both of them. You think you're gonna get any sales concessions on those? No, you're not. So depreciation has shrunk to very little. So there's that's been happening in the market. That said, there will be a distinction. We always make a distinction in tax assessment, often more than I would make on a fee appraisal, because I can't measure it. But there's a little bit of a benefit of the doubt given to taxpayers for more depreciated homes than less so. Just out of fairness, I think.
All right, any other questions, comments for Lisa?
Just one more. On, again, the booklet that they gave us, the clarifications and understandings, there are some exhibits in there, and, on this, it just says sample. And then like on Exhibit B, the service fees and investment summary include travel expenses. Now, are we gonna see what we might be charged for travel expenses, or are those included in the price of?
This fee schedule is there, including all of that. I do not understand that there is any. This is the total bid price, the $86,000, and
Yeah.
they're rolling it in like that. The only additional fees you might see is if there are additional parcels. I don't foresee Proctor growing by any large number of parcels, but I suppose, say you had a 5-lot subdivision, those would be 5 more parcels that would be potentially added to it, but I'm not seeing much growth that way in Proctor.
See if I can.
Yeah.
So, so the only additional charges that, I'm aware of in this contract are if an appeal goes beyond the Board of Civil Authority.
Okay.
That's on they will be available for it, but it's on a per diem fee basis.
Okay, and then Exhibit D, just the next page, talks about the client responsibilities to be inserted prior to agreement execution. Are there going to be some additional client responsibilities that are going to be added to this document, or do we have all of the client
We
responsibilities?
can ask them again, but to my understanding, no. I mean, there's requirements that we provide a computer and remote access to our computer program, but that's the only other additional cost that I
Okay.
know
Yep.
of.
Yeah.
Is it 86,000 to do the town?
It is.
So would they be here maybe 3 weeks? I mean, how many people are they gonna have? That doesn't seem like a lot of money.
I agree.
Just curious.
I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't do it for $116 a parcel. I'm being quite blunt with you, because I would end up having to do it myself, because trying to hire data collectors is a task I am not up for at this point in my life of being a boss of all those people. So, this is what we have. This is a firm that is available to do that, has been doing this for an awful lot of years, decades and decades.
So maybe we could invite that John Vickery even again to come via Zoom. I know when he was here, the first time he said if we had questions.
Certainly, he would.
And I think some of these questions might be best answered by him, and even just him acknowledging, what's the postcard gonna look like that we're gonna send out, and what can we anticipate from them in terms of education or upcoming, information to our homeowners. So,
Yeah, I mean, and I would assume that kind of dialogue is gonna be ongoing throughout the reappraisal.
sure. But just
and I see
maybe
it
if we just
certainly-
have it like before we start, like, so we know what the
Oh, sure, yeah,
expectations are.
Yeah. If you look at the Castleton website, there's a lot on their site already.
Okay.
And I don't believe they've actually started data collection yet. So what they've started is a lot of that PR piece and preliminary
Okay.
piece of it. So that might be one,
Yeah.
piece of example. But I John has said to me multiple times that he's happy to come in and meet with the board. I don't know. I don't know if those are reasons to hold up approving this contract.
Oh,
but that
no,
is
no, not, I don't think it's a reason,
certainly
though.
your purview, yeah.
No, I don't think
They-
it's a reason to hold up. I just think so,
They
rather
have
than,
committed to status updates with
Yeah.
each of these invoices.
yeah. I
Yeah.
just think it's good that everybody, there were some questions here that, that you're answering, which is great, but just to make sure the holder of the contract has the same,
Absolutely.
expectation or that. So
Yeah,
I think it
yeah.
would be great if all of us just take an opportunity then and look at the Town of Castleton website and see if there are things we think PR wise look great, or things, we don't really love with respect to the Town of Proctor. I mean, every town's unique in their own way, but no, I don't think it's a reason to hold up the, we want to be on the schedule. We need to get this done. This is only helpful to us. It's a disadvantage even going one more year with our CLA following.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm here for as your assessor
Yeah.
to, kind of guide them through that. And I don't live in Proctor, so I live next door, which is different,
Yeah.
but different, but the same, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
So but I'm happy to try to do whatever, whatever we can do to, put people at ease in Proctor with the process. I think it is a little bit of a sales pitch
Yeah.
that you have to put out to your taxpayers to make them understand.
Sure, and there's no reason we can't start now with kind of having that conversation, so.
Absolutely.
Just so we're all on the same page about what that expectation is with the company, that's the only
Absolutely.
thing, so. So if there are no other questions, a motion would be in order to approve the contract with Tyler Technology for $86,000 for reappraisal.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, and do we have I don't have a copy of the fee schedule or the timeline.
Oh, okay, do we?
I
only
need
have
two
the-
more, because Lisa wasn't on the board then, and Jay's
And Jay,
here.
Jay just joined us, so, I don't, unless you
Got one
can.
here, you're welcome.
But do you have
to.
couldn't we get the contract, the contract they gave us, the book? Is there a way to get two more?
Oh, this one? Oh,
Or do you have
Or
that
electronically.
electronically?
I don't have this electronically, I bet they do, and I can
Yeah.
get a copy.
If
Why
they-
don't
Looking at it right there.
Yes.
If they have it electronically, I'm good with that. I don't know about Jay, if you want a hard,
If I could get
Why
one,
don't you take my copy?
Yeah.
And I will ask them for an electronic copy.
yeah, and
totally up to you, Lisa.
Yep, and you said you needed more copies of the fee schedule?
yeah, I don't
Can
have a
I
copy.
make copies downstairs, or is that locked up?
It's locked, but I can go make them.
Or I can leave this with you, Judy, and you can get it
Okay,
for them
yeah.
later, how about
Yeah,
that?
that would be
Sure.
great.
I can always print another copy.
Okay. Yeah, and if
Less
they,
baggage.
if they can, send
Thank
you
you.
an electronic copy, can you just let Judy know and then I'll
Yes.
take, well, you have my email, Lisa, you could send me an electronic copy too if she has
Yes,
it. Or if they have it. I'm happy
I'm
to have
sure
it.
it's electronic too.
Yeah, I'm happy to
I'd
have
rather
it.
have that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm good
than
with
need it
that.
on paper. So two more copies, one for me and one for you, Lisa?
Yeah, that would be great, thank you.
Wondering where you got all the inside in.
Okay, I will pass on to them.
Okay.
Okay, we need a PR campaign in here.
Yeah, I'll look at that this evening though, when we go home, I'll look at Castleton to see what that looks like.
You know?
And there's a lot of information
Okay.
there. And to me, it was kind of, yeah.
Sometimes
Of course,
less is more,
But
so.
and it was like little videos that explained, different facets, and there was a frequently asked questions section to it, that really explained, it answered a lot of those questions about, attempts to make interior inspections and.
Yeah, if we
How
could
do
even
we
just
handle it?
grab those and upload those like to our Facebook page, that seems to get probably more hits than our website, so.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to do my own house if that'll help.
Sure.
Well, the data mailer is apparently an opportunity to do that.
There you go.
Share information if you'd like.
All right, thank you,
Thank
Lisa.
you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Have a great
All
night,
right.
everybody.
Moving on to the construction bids for South Street Sidewalk. So there were two bids. One from Richard Reed and Son, and one from Markowski. Do you want to discuss the
And
bids?
and I added, tonight on the table, the letter from Dufresne, which is basically the award letter. So if you look at this, and they also gave you the analysis that they did for awarding the bid. So obviously, Ricky Reed came in much lower at 169,285, and Markowski was 279,405.
What was that again?
So, Reed was 169,285, and Markowski was 279,405.
The big gap there.
Yeah.
For some reason. I think you should be looking at this very closely.
Well, that's what
What
the
the
engineers
engineer
took the
does.
bids to look at and analyze the bids to do apples to apples. And so the anticipated bid from the engineer's estimate for the project was $175,000 with a 15% contingency. So any questions from the board, any concerns? You feel comfortable making a motion this evening to award the contract?
I do, because that's the recommendation of the consulting engineers
Yeah.
to approve.
Yeah, so if they feel it's reasonable, I don't have a problem with the price, with their recommendation.
I make a motion based on their recommendation.
To award the bid to Richard Reed and Son for $169,285.
And to allow me to sign the notice of award?
Yes, and to authorize Judy to sign.
Thank you.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Appoint select board members to standing committees for representation and discuss the restructuring of the Beaver Pond Committee. What are the, outstanding or standing committees
So
that
a lot
need
of the-
representation?
A lot of the committees that are external have already been appointed.
Okay,
But these are more the internal ones, so they are Beaver Pond, Parks and Rec, Planning Commission, and also having a youth league rep. So looking back years ago, there was a lot more representation in all these committees, and I think over time, they've kind of just fizzled, and people have just joined a committee, and nobody knows they're on the committee, and they don't report back to the board or anything like that, so I kind of wanted to rein them all in again, and just say, you know, if you have a committee, you need a chair, you need a vice chair, you need somebody to keep minutes, you need an agenda, you need minutes afterwards. So I think it's just kind of, you know, sitting with mostly Beaver Pond, because I think that one got much bigger than it originally started with.
okay.
So kind of looking at them, and then getting maybe somebody back on the youth league, just so you have that kind of correlation between the youth league and the town.
Okay, so, Park and Rec, we actually appointed Park and Rec people at the reorg meeting. Planning Commission, we appointed people. So the committee that needs to have appointments is Beaver Pond. And then do we have people to appoint, or do we need to ask for letters of interest for Beaver Pond?
Well, what I'm looking for is board members to be on these committees.
Right,
So we
but-
don't have a board member on the planning commission.
Right, I understand, but Beaver Pond, we didn't reappoint at reorg. So for
No,
that
we
to be
didn't.
a standing committee, technically, those people should be appointed just like Park and Rec or anybody else.
Unless they started with a term and they haven't fulfilled that term yet. Which is-
I don't recall ever seeing in the book or hearing
It
at
actually
any.
had an ordinance, Beaver Pond ordinance, even, the committee.
But are we gonna make appointments by the committee handbook? We've got regulations that we should follow that.
Well, I'm looking for board members to serve on these committees.
So what are the
Board members.
regulations that you're
We
concerned
have people
about?
on the committees, we need a board member as a representative.
We don't even know who's in the Beaver Pond Committee.
There's a list of people that are on it, but I don't believe there's a board. Brucey, you're not on it anymore, are you?
No.
Yeah, because Tom was on it as the board member.
I guess for Beaver Pond, my first question would be having a list of people that are on that committee, just like Park and Rec, just like at the last meeting, we appointed, I don't know, Megan and maybe Amanda, I can't remember, to Park and Rec. So that should happen with Beaver Pond as well. So, I mean, we can start moving forward, I guess, from here, because they've never been appointed, they've never been listed in, a town report as, members to a standing, to that committee.
I think when Stan was here, they used to report back to him.
I understand that, but a standing committee is a committee, subcommittees are committees created by this board. This is the governing board. So this board has to technically appoint members for them to actually serve on a board.
Correct.
So,
Take an oath also.
excuse me?
They also have to take an oath to serve on the committee.
My issue is, there's never been an appointment listed in the Beaver Pond. I don't care who's on the committee, I'm just saying, we need to be able to say, if I say who's on Park and Rec, I know Megan's on Park and Rec, Amanda's on Park and Rec, Brian's on Park and Rec. I can go and look and see in the minutes who that is. I can look in Planning Commission and see that it's Carol and Phil and whoever those people are. So for Beaver Pond, if it's gonna be a committee of 7 or a committee of 5, whatever that is, this board needs to say, we're appointing, and they should be appointed the same way as Park and Rec for 2 years.
Then I'll get you the list of people who are on it and who were appointed when Stan was here.
Because, you know, the protocol in that handbook says that they have to submit their letter of intent. There's a form in the town clerk's office that they would fill out saying, I am interested in being on.
Well, I think they probably
Beaver
did that
Pond.
initially.
Okay.
I mean, there was a lot of committees formed a few years back that they weren't like that.
Yeah.
The standing committees are like your planning commission, your parks and rec, committee, those, but there was a law enforcement committee, there was a public works committee, there was a finance committee.
Right, and once there was no longer work for those committees, just like there was a town office study committee, once the work was completed by those committees, then those committees essentially go and set on the shelf. Because sub-standing committees should be doing the work directed by this board. The planning commission is a little separate because that's a statutory committee. But, so for example, like, if this board could say to the planning, or to Park and Recs, let's say, we would like you to look into expanding, having the pool open 6 days from 4 days or whatever. And that would be a directive from this board for that board to warn at their meeting to discuss. And they may come back and say, it's not gonna work, we don't have lifeguards, we've done whatever we're gonna do. And so, but agendas should be created from issues directed to them other than just them creating their own workflow, I guess, for lack of a better term. So, I mean, the youth league person, you're just looking for them just to be a liaison to.
Correct.
I think it's Stephanie and Ann that are running the youth league.
Lisa,
Yes.
aren't your committees that are appointed by the board or whatever, don't they have the same responsibilities as far as, like, Albert mentioned taking an oath, but the same responsibility as far as meetings and minutes of the meetings being kept and turned into the board and stuff like that?
Yeah, they have to follow the open meeting
Same
law.
open meeting law?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's in the committee handbook, all those regulations.
And does the handbook that is being discussed, does that list all the committees in it or not?
I checked this morning on the Proctor webpage for the committees. Currently, we have Parks and Rec, Public Nuisance Ordinance Review, and Beaver Pond. Just those three committees are listed, on our webpage.
I think there may be more committees.
Well, there are, that's something that should be updated. And same thing
But
with.
public news
Yeah,
ordinance
that's a
review.
committee, that's listed. It's
Oh,
the-
that was when they had the chicken meetings.
Well, yes.
Yes,
But again,
So where
that's
was
one
that
that's
li-
done its task.
right.
So.
So it doesn't-
We
so-
should update that list, is what I'm
Well-
saying.
But it means just like when we had the town office study committee or whatever that was. That committee met until the select board determined that the work had been done. The public nuisance, that met until the ordinance was rewritten. So now that committee basically lays dormant unless it needs to
okay.
come up again.
Okay.
So I think the thing to decide is whether or not you think Beaver Pond is a subcommittee or whether it's a real committee. Because I think it was kind of thrown together as
Well,
doing.
they're all subcommittees.
Well, I think it was thrown together. I think we're getting so far in the weeds here about meetings and the education of meetings and committees. And I think it's that it started off as a bunch of people wanting to clean up Beaver Pond. And so they started to. And then I think Stan kind of organized it as a committee because they used to come back and report to us. And then over time, it just kind of people dropped off, then people added themselves, as people started volunteering, and all of a sudden it wasn't a confined committee any longer. It was just a group of people doing that. They never came back, never reported to the board. So I'm asking you, I guess my intent was bring it back to being a committee where we do have a chair, they do have an agenda, they do have minutes. Because there's a lot of work going on at the pond sometime that doesn't get approval by anybody, they kind of do it. And I think it needs some more oversight sometime before the pond becomes too,
100%. I
Extreme.
mean, they shouldn't be taking action without coming to this board and asking for approval.
right.
So my suggestion would be then, if you know who the existing people are, to send a letter to them and ask them if they want to continue. And then the appointment should be, Park and Rec is like a 2-year appointment, I think planning is as well. Appointments should be for 2 years. And at the next meeting, we can appoint. The question is it going to be a committee of 5 or a committee of 7? And I would say a committee of 5, just because a committee of 7, then you have to worry about having a quorum. And we've seen that with you saw that even with Park and Rec, how difficult that
Right.
was to keep that.
And if you do follow the protocol, the handbook, the chairman of those committees should be appointed by the select board. And then the committees select the other officers, if they want a vice chair and or who the clerk would be.
It's always been that the committee appoints the chair.
Yeah. We,
Well, not according to our handbook, then we'll want to change that in our
Well-
handbook.
you can give authority you can allow committees the authority to appoint their own
Yeah.
chair. That certainly would be within the purview. Yes, John?
Lisa, just a thought, first on the Beaver Pond situation, one of the things, I've read stuff about what's going on at Beaver Pond and stuff, that's all the knowledge I have, but it seems to me that it's a good example of a committee that this board has to name and control, because what's going on out at Beaver Pond, I am sure that with regard to the water system, et cetera, there's some state regulations and some other stuff that applies relative to the dam on this end. And this board certainly wants to know what the heck is going on and have control over it. So if that's now an ad hoc committee that's out there doing whatever, I would think that that would be important for this board to get it squared away and under control. The other thought, just a thought, is that with regard to the other committees, a couple of them that were named, the one with the chickens or whatever, but the bottom line is, if you come to a point where the committee has served its purpose, then whether you recess the committee or do something, this board should take action so that you don't have an ad hoc committee that's still going out there and doing stuff thinking that they're fine. Judy doesn't know what's going on, you don't know what's going on, and all of a sudden you've got a catastrophe. It's just a thought, because there are committees that will come up from time to time, and you may want to, at the end, either recess them until the board decides further or something so that you maintain control over it.
And I believe that that committee did happen at this board. It was when Michael was the manager that committee
Chicken
was,
one?
yeah,
Yes,
that committee
yes.
was then, no,
Created.
It was kind of.
well, it was no longer, once you rewrote that section in the nuisance,
Right,
then that committee basically went away.
right, but
So-
nothing formally was done.
But you just, it's advisable.
Well, it was said at a meeting.
Well, there was actually, but he didn't say we recess this committee and it's dissolved. It's just we resolved the ordinance issue.
I think he did say, I can go back and look, that the committee was then dissolved.
Should
So,
have taken it off the website then.
well, minutes can still stay. I think that's what Albert's looking at, minutes.
No, I was just looking at it, there's a page that listed the committees, the committee list.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, yes, and then I think the minutes of the meetings were there.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be.
Yeah. So I would suggest that for Beaver Pond, and then we could address that at, I mean, maybe we want to wait 2 meetings if we want to have enough time. I mean.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay. And then, so the other ones, we're just looking to have liaisons as a select board member to that committee. So to Park and Rec, they meet on Wednesday nights?
Yes. Yep.
I'm on that board.
Yeah, Linda's
Okay.
already on that one,
So that's Linda.
but she stays on it.
And then Planning Commission, if someone wants to be the liaison to that. And I think they meet on Thursdays.
Thursday, first Thursday of the month.
Yeah. I'm happy to do that, sure. And then, if someone wants to be the liaison, well, it'd basically just be, Ann and Stephanie are running, the youth league. So, I don't know, just checking in with them.
Did you get one for the planning commission?
Huh?
Lisa said she would.
You're gonna do the planning?
Yeah, would you like to do youth league?
Okay, I'll do the youth.
Okay, great. All right, and then when we come back in 2 meetings and look at
Pond.
appointing to Beaver Pond, then someone will be a liaison from the board to
That'll be
that
yours.
as well.
The liaison to Beaver.
Okay?
How much money left in Beaver Pond?
I think they've only technically spent $1,000. It's in the town report under, funds. I don't have a town report with me. But you can look in it. It says Beaver Pond Fund, I think, and I think there was $10,000.
Yeah, originally.
And I think they spent maybe they've taken $1,000 out. I don't think that much. I think there's still like $9,000 in there.
I can get a figure for it if you want.
Yeah, yeah. It's in the back, it's where all the funds are in the town report. All right, dump day, May 4th. So I just wanted to, follow up with the board. Kyle's here, which is good. About fees, hours, all those kinds of things that we did last time. If you want to stay status quo, if there's anything you want to change. So before we made people come and get a pass, and one trip, second trip was
15.
was what?
15.
15? Okay. Second trip was $15. And,
It went from what, 9 to 1?
Yeah.
yeah. Those hours sound good to you? And we got, I don't know,
One is the solid waste.
same day.
They're coming that day for the
Yeah.
hazardous
Yeah,
waste,
but
yeah.
we don't-
11 to 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't know we haven't had anything that they put out saying they were going to do, like Proctor.
He confirmed with
Yeah.
us that he has our dates, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna do it on the same day, May
Yeah.
4th.
Is there any way to get him to start at 9 when we start?
Sometimes they do 2 in a day. I think that's
Yeah,
why.
they only
Yeah.
give us 2 hours.
Yeah.
People will come in with their hazardous waste at 9 o'clock
I know.
and they tell them
Could
we
we-
come back or that, then they end up.
I know, and the
leaving
dry,
somewhere.
yeah, and
Could
some
we
of this
re-
stuff you have to pay for now, so you can't even let them just leave it to,
Could we request the 9 to 11 slot instead of 11 to 1?
Yeah, but then you'd lose the
They booked
11
us.
to 1.
I mean, they booked us already, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't change the time.
yeah, we'll just have to be good about sharing the time.
I can't change the time, John, because they book it a year ahead.
Yep.
How many dumpsters did you use last year?
Well, unfortunately, we had some stuff down there from the dump day before, so we had, I think, 3 dumpsters hauling stuff out just to clear the dump. And then we brought one back, and then we had one more dumpster, I believe. 30 cubic feet, right? And one was, I think, smaller though.
Yeah,
Yeah, one of the smaller ones.
Yeah. And that was for the fall. Yeah.
Is anybody watching that dump down there, or is it just a free-for-all?
no,
No,
wait, no,
there's-
that's what we said, you have to come get a card. You have to have the card to be able to go through the line to dump, and it's one time, you get one time in.
And you have people from the highway crew there
Yeah,
telling people where to put things, watching what they're
I
dumping.
know about it. I know.
And then the second time, they have to pay $15.
Seems like a lot of garbage for a small town.
So you're talking about watching the dump beforehand, like year round? Yeah, that stuff that was there was left over from a previous dump day, like the metal stuff that was hauled out.
Well, what had been happening was you put the metal on the ground, and then we would take the metal away afterwards. But what was happening is it's a lot. I mean, it's a big tangled pile of metal.
Yeah.
So you're trying to get it with a backhoe, you end up picking up a lot of dirt. So if we have a dumpster there, put the metal in, you don't have to handle it.
So that metal went to Rutland County Waste?
Rutland Solid Waste, I think, didn't it? Yeah, with Casella brought it.
So we can make nothing on it.
I don't know, that was
I'm just
it was
saying.
before my time, John, I don't know, I can check
No,
for
if
you.
that make money, that's all the towns do, that's how they do it.
How much money do you think we're gonna make on dump day, John?
When I was down there, I was on the board, you don't make any money. But then what do you make
Isn't the
the money?
essence of isn't the essence of dump day so that we don't see the couch on the front lawn for 3 weeks, or things on West Proctor Road, or people who like to dump things
I
on forest land, like library land or Pat Johnson's land, and then we have to go clean it up. So some things are about the betterment of the community. Everything isn't money making. It's not that I don't like to make money, but sometimes you've got to weigh the pros and cons of things, right? I'd rather have
I'm
it.
just saying, but I'm just saying, you know, when I was down there was a lot of people, oh, this is my uncle, this is this, he's hauling this, you know,
But it's not, because you have to come here, you have to show proof of residency, and you have to get a ticket. They write down your name, your address, your ticket number downstairs, and we have a list. We've done that last time, and we also did it the time before, so we could keep a better list and a better hold on the number of tickets that we're giving out. So I know when I go downstairs and get a ticket, that's exactly what they do.
I don't need a ticket.
It
Okay,
was also suggested that we don't do the spring one on Green Up, the same day as Green Up Day.
oh, on the 4th?
Yeah, because it causes more problems, and I don't know if it's because people pick up garbage along the way, and then they bring it down there, and it becomes, I don't really know the reasoning, but it was just a suggestion that.
Well,
not-
people that are doing green up should have green up day bags. So.
Right.
And they should just leave them there to be
Yeah.
picked up.
Well, there should be, we should select like 2 locations in town for people to leave the green up day bags, and then historically, the town crew has come and picked those up like on Monday or something like that.
And I don't know if it's because of, our guys are down there doing that.
Yeah.
And then we have Green Up Day, so I don't know if we just do it a week later.
Okay, so that's something we could talk about for the following year, right?
Yeah.
Are we still gonna have the burn pile? down
That
there?
you can take wood and stuff? Yeah, you can
Yeah,
still.
I think we should be a little more careful in that, you can't in Vermont burn any treated materials. You can't treat painted lumber, you can't burn furniture that's been varnished or
They
shellacked.
mostly bring down, like
can't-
bush, like shrubs and things like that, don't they?
Yes,
Tree
yes,
cuttings?
natural untreated you can burn, but,
Yeah.
when I've been down there, there's, plywood, OSB board, none of that stuff you can burn, and that's in Pittsford now. I don't know if you get a permit from Pittsford, but you should, to burn. But, if,
We don't burn.
okay,
No, anything down there is, it's just, so, in the past couple of years, we make sure that any wood that's not clean goes in the dumpster.
Okay, good, yeah.
We're not,
All right.
we're not collecting anything that you can't burn.
Yeah.
We have a clean wood pile. And there is another pile down there was put there in years past, that's not clean wood.
yes, right, okay, that's probably what I'm seeing and wondering, why are we taking that stuff when?
Anytime we have another dump day, we have room in the dumpster, we'll take a little bit more.
Yeah,
of it
okay, good.
from the dumpster.
Good, you do have a handle on it, good, Kyle.
All right, so going forward, dump day will be May 4th, 9 to 1. Hazardous waste will be 11 to 1. And the town, Kyle will coordinate with the town crew to be down there. To be able to participate, you'll have to come, show proof of residency to receive a ticket downstairs. The second trip would be $15. Anything else? We have a list of acceptable and non-acceptable, or a list of non-acceptable items that we'll put on the flyers. All right. Any other questions? All right. Sounds good. We already discussed seasonal outsourcing, and we talked about the lawn tractor. 61 Main Street.
So as you noticed, the rocks we talked about falling down up there on Main Street, contacted, we put boulders up so that people wouldn't walk along that sidewalk there. And then we contacted the property owners. They actually, the property manager reached out back to me, got somebody to meet with Kyle. Unfortunately, the man they sent doesn't really know anything about ledges or anything. So he talked about him, told him the issue, and then he gave him someone's name to contact for a contractor. And I haven't heard back from them yet. But they've been really good about getting back to me when I call them about certain things. And I did see 2 cars parked over there today, so I don't know if they're back in the building, but they've had people over there.
That's the ledge, Judy, right across from the geology building
Yeah.
here, that,
Yeah,
and there's rocks coming down off the...
No,
Yeah.
no, over by the marble building.
yeah,
Yeah,
across from the
across
geology.
from the-
Across from the
They-
geology.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's their property, so,
Oh, so, okay, that's interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
We've had rocks come loose here and there over the years, but
Yeah,
lately you can really see where it's eroding out, and we're getting bigger and bigger rocks that are rolling right out. in the-
Oh, really? Really, coming off that ledge?
You know, the winter cycle freeze and expand and loosen them and.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so Kyle and Judy will continue to monitor that and keep us abreast of that at the next meeting. And then to 2651 West Street.
So they're coming Friday, this Friday, to do the asbestos inspection, and then they'll have a report to us on what their findings are, so he
do you
contacted
have
me.
any idea when they're coming?
He said he thought he'd be there in the morning, probably like 9:30, 10. Yeah. And they do a pretty thorough inspection, so, although right now everything's covered in the snow, so,
Yeah.
but,
Hopefully, well, it's supposed to rain on Wednesday.
Whether, so,
All right, motion to move into the Board of Water Commissioners at 7:32.
Motion to move?
Second. All
Second.
those in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. You have on your desk a list of the top 20, top something.
yeah, 20. So the one on the top is one that I did. I extracted all the ones from the delinquent list and took the top 20 ones. And then the other list has all delinquent. The ones that it doesn't include is the ones that Michael made agreements with, so they don't show up on this report. So now we have to go back to try to figure out if they actually broke those agreements, which it's obvious they have because of the balances, so. So I gotta go back and look to see where they're at. So then I'm gonna send letters to those who had agreements to see what was set up with them, if they're, wanting to put agreements in. And then these, I'm doing the first 10 first and sending them a 30-day letter. And then after the guys deal with all of those, then we can go on to the next and keep going.
So do we know from this list that they all have shut-offs that are?
No.
Okay. Okay.
And some, the bad part is the
Well-
top 3.
I mean,
Yeah.
2 we can't even right now do anything with.
Right, well, the first one and the third one they have renters in there, so.
And neither one are in foreclosure?
I believe the first one was taken over by the bank.
Okay. So we could send it to them.
Yeah, they haven't taken any action, which I'm surprised they haven't even paid it.
Okay. Okay.
So question,
Yep.
Judy had mentioned their letters will be going out. Is that, would that be like the first letter, or is it a
Yeah, it's a
follow-up letter?
30-day notice to them.
30 days
30 days. And
notice.
I'm assuming that's the first letter sent out, this isn't a follow-up. This isn't the second request, this is the first?
No, it's the first.
Okay.
That we give 30 days notice and that we can shut their water off if they don't, and then Kyle and I have to get together, because even if, like these 10, he might say that the first, like, 4 of them don't have a shut off, so we gotta figure that out too, so.
And just to clarify, some of them have received letters before, and some of them had been in agreements before. So it's the first letter this year going forward. Because technically you can't do it till what, April 1st or the 15th?
First.
April 1st.
Okay.
So we have to stop in,
October, I think, isn't
is it October or
November
November?
1st.
Yeah,
November
November.
1st.
So November 1st to April 1st, you can't do anything by state statute. So now we're starting to go forward, so,
Have you ever shut anybody's water off?
yes,
it? Yes,
Yeah.
yep.
yeah, several,
They pay pretty quick usually.
yeah,
Yeah,
They don't need another letter.
yeah. Sometimes just standing with the piece of equipment on the front lawn,
yeah,
Big wrench.
yeah. No,
yeah, so, okay, great. All right, anything else for water?
Nope.
All right, sewer, anything for sewer?
Nope.
Okay.
If I got one question here, just for current events, of course, for whether it's water or sewer or both.
Yeah, go ahead.
With springtime, this weather we just had and flooding, are there any foreseen issues we might be looking at, flooding wise, anything contamination wise,
I don't
anything
think
that?
so hopefully we don't have a summer like we did last summer with
Right,
all that
well,
water.
I'm looking at even the weather this week with all the snow that we got, it's gonna be a serious meltdown if we.
Right.
get
Yeah.
rain in between it there.
Right.
So if we have any overflows or like that, the water and sewer guys are required to report to the state, and then Judy would let us know that we had an overflow. Usually it's at the park pump station.
Right,
Then,
I would know that, right.
yeah, there would be paperwork on that.
Just a thought.
We
Yeah,
have, we call it infiltration into the sewer.
Right.
And it's not completely sealed up, so anytime you have any kind of melt, thaw or anything like that, you get a little groundwater into your sewer, but it's not a big deal.
Nothing big, yeah.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at, of course, again, what we had for snow and the melt, quick
Yeah.
melt and the possible rain and, anything, any issues that we might wanna take a look at.
yeah, I'm sure there are drains that are probably completely covered with snow. I know at the end of our street there is,
Right.
so, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move out of the Board of Water Commissioners at 7:37. A motion would be in order.
Motion to move out.
Albert, second.
Second.
Second by Jay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. And we don't have anything for sewer, so we'll move on to department. So everyone has a copy of the sheriff's report, public work, and town manager. So we'll have Judy give a little synopsis of her report, please.
Can I just
What
make
about the
one?
sheriff's report?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
thought we were going in.
yeah,
Can I just make one comment on the sheriff's report?
sure.
The format that they use for presenting it this
Yeah.
time, I think it's the best that I have seen.
They
Okay.
keep changing it though. They
I know,
don't
I think
present
that-
it this
yeah,
way.
it's
It's
different.
how I manipulate it. It comes through wacky every time. I don't know why they keep changing it.
But
This one looks a lot
report
better.
Was nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
And the detailed information that the sheriffs put, or the deputies put in,
Yeah.
was nice.
Yeah.
Was gonna question the dating on it was, they're backwards, is it? Or that's just me?
Yes, well, no, that's the
Oh,
way they.
the way
do it.
Well, the
send
way,
it,
yeah,
Oldest to the
yeah, it
newest.
goes back.
They go
yeah,
from
They
recent
go
to
from the
last.
oldest to the
Yeah.
newest.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's all right. Easy to get by.
All right, and any questions for Kyle on his report?
Just one, and I saw you had the rep there doing the energy assessment. Would that be the person from MERP? Was it MERP?
Yeah, they did the energy assessment for the garage and
Yeah.
for this building that same day.
Yeah, good.
We haven't gotten the report yet, though, but they spent a
Oh.
lot of time at both sites.
I was kind of thinking that may have been dead, and we weren't gonna see it, but
No, they
when I
were,
saw.
they were here probably,
notes,
they were over a year, your garage, about 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
And I think they were about 3 hours here, too. Yeah, very detailed.
Good.
All right. Judy?
All right.
That would be more than $116 a building, won't it?
Yeah, it's almost like they're looked at it was like, whoa, it's But we're hoping that by doing the assessment, then we can get grant money and like to repair like windows here and, you know, maybe a heating system, something better there, so. That's the purpose we did it, because you can't get grant money without doing the assessment. Everything nowadays has to have an assessment before you get a grant, so. All right, so I talked about Bigfoot already. We contacted them about the rock cliff. Met with Public Works about the spring schedule, potholes, paving, mowing, and pool. And Kyle's creating a schedule for brush and roadside cleanup. GPI reached out to get bid information for the sidewalks, and I'll contact them after today's meeting. He wanted to know if we signed the award letter. So, and they've been great. They've been like on top of things already. And he even stopped by to introduce himself, so.
Well, what about those stumps down there? When are they coming to get that?
That's up to Trees Inc. So that is, they said they'd be coming in like April sometime.
Okay.
On the paving, is Olympus gonna get paved? 'Cause boy, back down there by the entrance to the cemetery, it's in tough shape.
It's not on this year's schedule.
It should be.
It should be.
It's-
Well, John, there's a lot of other ones that were on the schedule already from last year.
If the
know?
potholes were filled, you wouldn't have these issues.
We have a lot of roads to maintain, and every town, every city goes through this. You can't pave them all unless you want to have the taxpayers, you know, have the big burden on them. It's costly. So we have a schedule for this year and what we're gonna do, and we're already started the schedule for next year and what we're gonna do. But if you notice places, just bring it to our attention, because then Kyle makes note of it, so he knows. Because you can go anywhere through town and find potholes right now, you know? I mean, it's the nature of the beast, and it's where we live. So, let's see, we talked about the delinquent accounts already. Transfer station recertification was completed, signed and returned. That had some changes to it because it was still kind of outdated from when we ran it as a dump. Park and Rec meeting was last Wednesday, the 13th. The Easter egg hunt is scheduled now for this weekend, because it was scheduled for this past weekend, but it was canceled because of the snow. So they're doing it on the 30th with pancake breakfast. And then they're planning an event in honor of Ben Curtis at the rink the day before Memorial Day. There's going to be a barbecue, roller skating, and possible fireworks, and movie at night, weather permitting. We talked about the public work outsourcing. I did talk to the league, because I know one of you asked about the league and what they think about people outsourcing. And they basically just directed me to the benefits and salary book for the league. So I went through it all, and there was probably, I couldn't find any town that outsourced public works. Some of them outsourced seasonal, but they had a full-time staff still, or they had part-time, but they still had full-time. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, no.
and they also said that as insurance-wise, like if you did hire a high school student, if they did have, you know, mowed the lawns and stuff, they'd have to be on your insurance, otherwise it's liability.
Yeah.
If it's any business outsourcing, they have to have a certificate of insurance, even if it's a, you know, like somebody is a student who has a summer job and has his own business, he has to have a proof of certificate of insurance, so. They said it can become a liability. I want to just bring up mowing in the cemetery, just because I don't know when that contract ends. The last one I saw from the cemetery commission ends in 2022. And I didn't see a contract beyond that, so I don't know.
Okay. So can we, invite the person who has the contract in and,
Yeah, and I think it's a discussion to have anyway about.
yeah, going out to bid? I mean, historically, how many years do they,
It was 3 years, a 3-year contract.
okay.
Is that both cemeteries?
No,
No,
just
just
Riverside.
Or just Riverside.
So had a Zoom meeting with the state of Vermont and Zion Growers regarding the grant application, and we extended the approval of it until May 1st, pending the issue with negotiations on the water and sewer.
All right, questions? All right. Any other questions from the public? John?
Yeah, at the rink facility, we have a preschool or a nursery school or something running down there. Is that?
Camp.
Is
Summer
that
school, summer camp.
summer camp, is that being run by the town or is that being run privately?
It's being run by our director, the rec director, and then another teacher. Another person helps her.
Again, is it being run by the town or is it being run as a private enterprise?
No, it's not a private enterprise. Everything that we charge for the camp is what we do for salary and product or, supplies. So it's not like she's doing it as a business to have a summer living.
Okay, so.
It's approved by the Parks and Rec.
The reason I'm asking the question is just to be sure that I assume it's covered by the town's liability policy, and I assume that, the hours that that's in operation, the balance of the town is not, that facility is not available to the other people in town for purposes down there? Is
No,
that-
I've told her, and the select board approved this too, approved the summer camp. So if they have kids down there, they can utilize the outside, but if other kids are around on summer and they want to go there skating, roller skating, they can.
And the only other thing that I would ask that you please check it for your own purposes is make sure what the insurance coverage situation is.
Yeah, we always, like when we do something there, or any place, like an event or like classes and stuff, we always notify the league to let them know that.
I just want to be sure that it's covered, that the town is covered.
Right.
I don't know if there's any private insurance on it at all, or if it's a town-run program. If it's town-run, just make sure it's covered.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
I would like a copy, March 4th, what the guys put in for their time. What time they started, what time they got done. I asked that today, and you still haven't given it to me.
Now, John, you asked, you were very unclear. You said you wanted to see what they did March 4th. That's what you said.
The time.
So I said the report included March 4th.
Okay. Well, there's no time.
They have time, but I'm not giving you their time sheets.
It should be public.
Timesheets?
No.
No.
And the
They
personnel
can
files.
be, but what's the point of the timesheet? You want to know when they clocked in and when they clocked out?
As a taxpayer, I have the right.
That's right.
And we can provide that to you, but we're not going to provide copies of, I mean,
I can give you what hours they worked and when they
Yeah.
I'll just take it. Fine, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I asked the taxpayer, I asked a simple question.
we're happy to provide the hours. I said, we're happy to provide the hours.
Can you come and review the timesheet? Can you come to the office and review the time cards?
With the town, I guess with the town manager, you could, sure.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you'd need to call and make an appointment.
Yeah, understand.
Thank you.
All right. All right, motion will be in order. I'm gonna find the order. I have a paper here to read for my motion. To move into executive session. I move to find that premature general knowledge regarding the town's potential action of an outstanding appeal on water and sewer charges would clearly place the town at a substantial disadvantage because the select board risks disclosing its negotiation strategy if it discusses the appeal in public.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chairperson, before you go into executive session, could
Sure.
I have about 2 minutes with the town manager just for a second?
Sure, we're gonna have a couple minutes while he,
Couple.
yeah,
They're gonna stay here, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
You want me
Motion,
to close out of the meeting?
Motion to go into executive
All right.
session for the reasons that you just read.
alright. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the second motion is, I move we enter into executive session at 7:55 PM to discuss the town's action to appeal and legal representation under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1A of the Vermont statutes.
I'll still appraise my own house if you'd like.
Okay,
Oh, gee, thanks.
$116, think about it.
second? All
Thanks,
those in
Dan.
favor?
Aye.
All right.